We're going to go forth, guys. We had a little interruption there in our recording here. So I'm going to start back at 23, okay? Acts 25, verse 23. And on the morrow, when King Agrippa was come, and Bernice, with great pomp, and was entered into the place of hearing with the chief captains and principal men of the city, at Festus' commandment Paul was brought forth. And Festus said, King Agrippa, and all men which are here present with us, ye see this man about whom all the multitude of Jews have dealt with me, both at Jerusalem and also here, crying that he ought not to live any longer. But when I found that he had committed nothing worthy of death, and that he himself had appealed to Augustus, I have determined to send him, of whom I have no certain thing to write unto my Lord. Wherefore I have brought him forth before you, and especially before thee, O King Agrippa, that after examination had I might have somewhat to write. For it seemed to me unreasonable to send a prisoner, and not withal to signify the crimes laid against him. Okay, guys, we're going to go over this here. So we have here a story. And this is Paul's story. He's been accused of so many treacherous crimes, of course, his past experiences. And, of course, he turned his back on the Lord, on the source of all things. And he tortured the Christians and even killed them, and he decided on the road to Damascus that he would turn his life around, and he would accept his calling, and he would accept, the will of God for himself, in spite of those who sent him, for their own adverse reactions to the truth. So we have here, and it's verse 1, it says, Now when Festus was come into the province, after 3 days, he ascended from Caesarea to Jerusalem. Okay, so Festus means joyous. So, he's happy. He's a happy one. He ascends from Caesarea to Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is very symbolic, guys. And we'll go into that at a later time, and then the high priest and the chief of the Jews informed him against Paul. See, Paul is a Latin word, and it means small and humble, scarce and rare, so that's why his name was changed from Saul to Paul on the road to Damascus, because he decided to humble himself before the Lord our God. So I'm going to go to verse 5. It says, Let them therefore, said he, which among you are able, go down with me and accuse this man, if there be any wickedness in him. So because of his past, they were still accusing his future, and we are not susceptible to our past when we overcome it, So he died pretty much to himself and to man's ways of living and ways of understanding, and began to grow in the knowledge of an understanding of divinity. So we'll go to verse 7. It says, And when he was come, the Jews, they laid many grievous complaints, which they could not prove against him. So you guys who are, we take social media for what it is, which I just joined, of course. And I look at the pages, of course, and that's how I decide for what I want on my page, because energy is everything. And there are some guys and some girls and people who say very slanderous things about you, but we can't take those things serious because they're not who we really are. You define who you are. And if you allow those things to, I guess, I'll say your brain is like a filter. You filter out those things, because if you don't filter out those things, they stick, and they leave a very, 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 very filthy residue behind. And that clogs you, and your essence. Okay, so they could not prove these things. And he answered, have I offended anything at all? He asked this. And he says, but verse 9, but Festus, willing to do the Jews a pleasure, he asked him, wilt thou go up to Jerusalem and there be judged? Now, see, when you are connected with the divine, with the source of all things, Paul gets to consider if he wants to go before Festus. It's his choice. He chooses to give up the ghost when he so chooses, until life comes back and source, the source of all things, decides to take its breath. Man can't take what God gives. Okay. So we'll go to verse 10, because Paul says, I stand at judgment, and I've done no wrong, as thou very well knowest. Yeah, no wrong. Yet they're going to accuse you anyway. So how do you defend yourself against somebody else's thoughts or ideas or interpretations or beliefs? You don't allow them as your own. Okay. For if I be an offender, verse 11, or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die. But if there be none of these things whereof they accuse me, no man may deliver me unto them. So I appeal unto Caesar. Yeah. Now, that's bold. You hear? No man. You hear? Faithful and true. Power, authority. Verbiage. And he asks, Festus asks, joyous asks, hast thou appealed unto Caesar? Unto Caesar shalt thou go. Joyous? I don't know. And after certain days, King Agrippa and Bernice, look, there's that name again, came unto Caesarea to salute Festus. And verse 14 here, it says, and when they had been there many days, Festus declared Paul's cause unto the king, saying, there is a certain man left in bonds by Felix. Now, Felix, it means luck. Now, that's funny. What kind of luck is it? Oh, boy. About whom, when I was at Jerusalem, which is the city of peace, Zion, the chief priests and the elders of the Jews informed me, desiring to have judgment against him. This Paul. And he's got to go. He's got to go before Augustus, guys. Okay, so here we go. And 16 says, it is not the manner of Romans to deliver any man to die. Nah. Don't believe the hype, nah. So who's delivering Paul here? We're going to go back here. Because verse 11 says, for if I be an offender or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die. So Paul is actually delivering himself. He made a choice. Because he knows whose power and authority he's walking in. Let's go. Okay, so we'll go down to verse 18. Against whom, when the accusers stood up, they brought none accusation of such things as I suppose. Just as I thought. All lies. Lie, 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 lie. Blessings and peace and favor. do I speak, but had certain questions against him of their own superstitions, and of one Yeshua, which is dead, whom Paul affirmed to be alive. Come on now. Let's move, Shekinah. So, here we go. 20 says, go to Jerusalem. He says, I'll go to Jerusalem and be judged. To the city of peace. I'm going to the city of peace, and I'm going to go give myself unto the judgment seat. Okay? So verse 21, but when Paul had appealed to be reserved unto the hearing of Augustus, I commanded him to be kept till I might send him to Caesar. See, Augustus is Latin for the great and magnificent one. Yeah, the great and magnificent one. Because God chooses to abase and humble. So who's the magnificent one? So 22 here says, then Agrippa said unto Festus, I would also hear the man myself tomorrow, said he, thou shalt hear him. You definitely gonna hear Paul. Definitely gonna hear him. See, Agrippa, it just so happens to mean the colonists. And here we are, isn't it funny? This is what we're against. The colonist is the one who causes great pain at his birth. At his birth. Now here we are in 2020. We've had quite some time here in these last couple of years. It's been a lot of pain. We may be able to find out who the colonists are, and maybe to find Agrippa. And see, in verse 13, see, it says, and after certain days, King Agrippa and Bernice came unto Caesarea to salute Festus. See, he and Bernice, they had to work together. See, because Bernice is a Greek word for bringer of victory. Look at here. How did she make X? Let's see here. So we're going to go on to 25. And on the morrow when Agrippa was come, and Bernice with great pomp, and was entered into the place of hearing with the chief captains and principal men of the city, at Festus' commandment Paul was brought forth. At Joius' commandment Paul was brought forth. The humble was brought forth. And Festus said, Joius said, ye see this man about whom all the multitude of the Jews have dealt with me, but at Jerusalem and also here, crying that he ought not to live any longer. But when I found that he had committed nothing worthy of death, and that he himself had appealed to Augustus, I have determined to send him. Paul himself had appealed. You hear me? Went before the magnificent one. 26, of whom I have no certain thing to write unto my Lord, whereof I have brought him forth before you, and specially before thee, O King Agrippa, that after examination I might have somewhat to write. After examination is had, I might have somewhat to write. This testimony. Is this a testimony? Oh, this sounds like a testimony. Okay. And it says for 27 says, for it seemed to me unreasonable to send a prisoner and not wither, to signify the crimes laid against him. So, sounds like freedom. I cannot express it enough. That whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Step into your freedom. Embrace your calling. For the wheels are turning, and the wheels wait. For the wheel in the middle of the wheel is expecting you. Blessings, peace, and favor. Selah.